What's happening, everyone? JayShockblast here, and Snake Eyes is in Fortnite, and you guys know that, and hopefully you got him using creator code JayShockblast. But I digress. Man, I love G.I. Joe, and seeing Snake Eyes in Fortnite really just got me thinking, man, this is the best G.I. Joe has ever looked in a video game, and we need a great G.I. Joe video game. I know there was one that came out earlier this year, but it was really not that great. And there was one on Xbox 360 and PS3, many years ago. That wasn't that great either. Even the NES game back in the day, I loved it then, but it was really hard. And I want a really awesome G.I. Joe game. You would think something like this would be perfect, for making a video game. It just, seriously, how have they not made a great video game yet? It feels like everything is just a budget, cash grabby video game. Spend some time with it, make a really dope video game, and I think people would come crawling to it. And, I've been thinking about, though, who are my favorite G.I. Joes? Obviously, there's one that you should be able to figure out based on JayShockblast, but I wanted to go ahead and put together a list inspired by Snake Eyes being in Fortnite of my top 10 favorite G.I. Joes. These are all G.I. Joes that I owned at one point or another growing up. Some of them I even still have now. They did like a 25th anniversary wave of figures. I've got a bunch of those still. And yeah, man, I ordered the Fortnite Snake Eyes figure. That's going to be dope. So let's go ahead and talk about it. My top 10 favorite G.I. Joe characters. At number 10, we have Lifeline. He was a medic and he wore red, and I just loved his figure. I played with it all the time, to the point where when I was in first grade, I actually buried him in the sandbox at school. So somewhere in Cherry Point, North Carolina, a lucky kid has my Lifeline action figure. I think the trauma of never being able to find him is why Lifeline as a character always lived on in my heart as a character that I loved, because I never ended up getting him again. But I just love the way he looked. He was in the cartoon here and there, and he was kind of a dork in the cartoon, but still, I just loved his suit, and that's why Lifeline's number 10. At number 9, we have Law and Order, and as I've mentioned many times before, my father was a Marine, and we grew up on different military bases. When I lived at Cherry Point, North Carolina, we were the second house from the back gate, and I saw the military police all the time, interacted with them all the time. And Law and Order is, I believe, an MP. He's got his dog, Order, which is a German Shepherd, and I love dogs. So when you're a kid and you see this military police officer figure with an awesome looking dog figure, and you are talking to these military police every single day when you're walking to school, it sticks with you, it resonates with you. So, that's one of the reasons why Law and Order has always one of my favorites, because I thought it was pretty cool too. He had like this cool blue vest and everything. So Law and Order, number 9. Now, number 8 is probably going to surprise some people. It is this guy you see me playing with right now, Snake Eyes. I was not as big a fan of the ninjas as everybody else. Obviously, I liked Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. There's no two ways around that. They're awesome characters. I mean, Snake Eyes is just a total badass. There's no two ways around it. So obviously, he's got to be on my list. But I don't know. There were just other characters I liked a little bit more. I think it's because everybody loved Snake Eyes that I kind of gravitated away from him a little bit more. But I know he's honestly probably one of my brother's top 2 or 3 favorites. He's even got the Arashikage tattoo on his arm. So Snake Eyes, fantastic character. I hope the movie is amazing. Rob Liefeld has a really cool comic run going on right now. So yeah, he's always been a favorite, and I have him at number 8. At number 7, we have Bazooka, and that is, in fact, a Steve Rogan New England Patriots jersey he is wearing. Hasbro is based out of Rhode Island, which is about 45 minutes to an hour from where I live, and about 20 minutes from Foxborough, which is where the Patriots play. So needless to say, when you're growing up, even though we lived in North Carolina back when the figure came out, my dad and my whole family is from Massachusetts, and I grew up Patriot fan and a Red Sox fan, Bruins and Celtics, because we were Boston sports fans. And the Patriots lost to the Bears in I think the '86 Super Bowl. I had an AFC Champions t-shirt, so like seeing your favorite football team on an actual G.I. Joe character, it's just too dope. So Bazooka always lived on with me. He was also quite the character in the cartoons, and he just loved blowing stuff up. So it's pretty hard not to love Bazooka, which is why he was number 7 for me. Number 6, super obvious. I have the 6-inch Hasbro figure right now that just came out, Gung Ho. Let me tell you, he is one of the few actual toys my father ever bought for himself. He is literally Mr. Marine. There was different versions of him when I was growing up. He was just a standard figure. We got the big old Marine Corps tattoo on his chest, and then you have his dress blues figure, and my dad had that in his gun cabinet, because obviously he was a Marine, so he had guns. Yeah, man, like Gung Ho will always mean something a lot to me. He's just Cajun redneck guy, total jarhead. And I say that with all the respect in the world. Man, Semper Fi, like Gung Ho, the ultimate Marine G.I. Joe. So how could I not love him? So yeah, he's on there. And a little shout out to Leatherneck. I actually just got the Leatherneck Funko Pop, and it's got a big old Marine Corps logo right on his hat. So my pops is a Marine, man. It's part of my blood. It's part of my life. So that meant a lot to me when I was younger and always stuck with me. At number 5, we have Sci Fi, and Sci Fi is probably one of the very few action figures that could ever pull off just being neon green. Like, he is this like loud, obnoxious green color, and I'm not typically into that type of thing, but when I was a kid, man, he was just so different. He had this very futuristic gun. He looked all futuristic, and he was just always a favorite. I had, if you were a kid in 1985, 86, 87, 88 when this came out, you loved Sci-Fi. He was just dope characters. So I got him at number 5. At number 4, I tend to believe this is where my love of redheads came from. It is Scarlett. Scarlett is bae. She is, for a lot of people, probably number 1. But she's just an awesome figure, an awesome, fantastic character. She was in so many of the cartoons, and I feel like she is the ultimate female G.I. Joe. In so many ways that, like, she was one of the quintessential badasses of G.I. Joe. So I always loved Scarlett. She's always one of my favorites. And, I feel like that's why I think redheads are extra hot. Just being honest, that's what I think. So at number 4, we had Scarlett. At number 3, we have Beachhead. And let me tell you, speaking of badasses, Beachhead is your typical drill sergeant, just total in-your-face jerk, I guess you could say. He was in the G.I. Joe movie, which I still have on VHS. I still have it, all right? And I watched that over and over again. And he trained all the new recruits, and he actually just had a Funko Pop too. And I just always loved him as a character. And it'll make sense in a minute because he's just a really awesome looking ranger looking dude with his, ski mask style. I don't remember what the military term for it is, but yeah, just always loved Beachhead. So that's my number 3. At number 2, you'd think he's number 1, considering I named my channel after a version of him. We have Shockwave. Now, I called the channel originally Shockblast Media. I didn't want to call it Shockwave Media because that sounded a little generic. There is an amazing transformer named Shockwave, but at one point they started calling Shockwave Shockblast, and there is also a Shockblast transformer. And for me, I just thought that name sounded really cool, and I always loved Shockwave as a G.I. Joe. Again, he was always my like number 2 favorite, right there with my number 1 that I'll talk about in a moment. Loved Shockwave. He's also got that kind of military police. He's got that like Arctic camo thing going, and you know, the ski mask look, the hat, loved it. The blue, yellow, and dark blue camouflage, just absolutely loved Shockwave. So that is why he's at number 2. So who is my number 1? Well, let me tell you something. This character was my favorite because of his little pet, which I almost named my first dog after. My first dog's name was Tiger. He was a boxer, just like Thor and just like Teddy before. Spearhead and his bobcat Max. When we went to go pick up Tiger, my dad was asking me what I wanted to name him, and I said Max. I want to name him Max after my favorite G.I. Joe. Spearhead, I don't think he was ever in the cartoons. He might have been in the comics here and there, but he was just a figure that I don't know what it was. He had this awesome assault rifle with a knife at the end of it, and he was wearing the fall camouflage. I just loved Spearhead. I just thought he was the coolest character. I just loved his Bobcat Max. I've seen there was a list out there that had him like in the 100 level, and it hurt. It cut to my soul because this is my favorite character, my favorite G.I. Joe I ever owned. I just loved Spearhead. And I know that he's very unknown for a lot of people, but man, I don't know what it was. It's just something about him, and I literally almost named my first dog, my first boxer, almost named him Max because of it. But, you know, it's cool. I don't think we'll ever see him in a movie or a video game or anything like that. He just always looked awesome. So that's my list. Those are my top 10 favorite G.I. Joe characters. I went a little off the rails a little bit. I didn't necessarily just base it off of the TV show. You know, obviously, you know, Duke and Flint and Lady J and even Shipwreck, all those characters were a lot of fun to watch in the cartoon. But, you know, for me, I kind of went based off of, you know, the toys that I loved. And I loved all these as toys. So that's my list. If you are a big G.I. Joe fan at any point in your life, I would love to know who some of your favorite G.I. Joes are. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see ya.